Hello, I'm Benson and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you a laser engraver, the NEJE MAX 4 with a E80 laser module. This is one of many videos I'm going to put on the YouTube to showcase the machine and also to share my tips and tricks with you guys regarding laser engraving. My video is not scripted, but it is going to be like at a progressive level. At the beginning of the video will be really basic stuff. It might not be appealing to people who already know laser machine and stuff like that, so feel free to skip to wherever you need. Hopefully by the time I edit the video, I will have time to actually put chapters in it, so you can just pick and choose what you want to know about the machine itself. And when we say engraving aluminium cards, what I mean is these black coated cards. You don't actually engrave the aluminium, you actually just etch away the black coating on top. Now this is one of my favorite materials, and that's why the first video in this series is about aluminium card. You can actually learn a lot about your laser by using aluminium card, and they are consistent. Unlike organic material, which is like a timber, a different type of wood, you got hardwood, softwood, man-made, MDF, plywood as such. Every piece of wood can be different. But this aluminium card, apart from the thickness and the type of color of the coating, they don't really change a lot. And they are cheap. So I managed to find on Amazon like £8 for 100 of these cards. I already gone through like almost a whole pack just to get to know my laser. When you're learning laser engraving, you want to eliminate as much variable as possible. A lot of people buy the machine, don't know anything about it, and they go blindly doing engraving and they couldn't find the result they want, and then they gave up. Laser engraving at the moment is still like an art. So you do have to know your machine and you do need to apply certain dark magic to it. But hopefully my video will show you some basic settings so you can actually start. Now you might not have a NEJE MAX 4 machine, but I can tell you that. But because this is a 20-watt output laser, if you have something similar, you can actually still use the similar setting. So the setting I use for the NEJE MAX 4 and the Ultimastack X20 is pretty similar. So, it might be a good starting point for any 20-watt diode laser. So before we dive into the technical parts of the video, I just want to showcase what I have done so far. I'm sure there's a lot more improvement that you can do to make even better engraving. But for me as a layperson, as a chemist who is not like an engineer or artist, none of these images are mine. I just download them on the internet. Some of them are Facebook groups, so I will give them credits for all the photos that I've taken, purely for my own enjoyment. So my first tip to you is know what your tool can do. My Laser Packer 4 can do absolutely brilliant engraving on aluminium cards. They just win hands down. The laser dot size is so small that you can produce a lot more details and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that the NEJE MAX 4 cards are rubbish. It's just that there is the next level in terms of what that kind of laser can do. So there's MOPA fiber laser, which I want to get my hands on, but they're out of my price range at the moment. So they can do amazing details engraving as well once you get the setting right. But my video is to help you get the best out of the NEJE MAX 4, so I'm going to show you what this machine can do. Now laser engraving on aluminium card is just like, printing on paper. If you choose the wrong type of image or your image is rubbish to begin with, then you will get rubbish results. The NEJE MAX 4 is a diode laser which moves on the X and Y axis, so it has its limitation. And that is why I have done so many cards here with different type of settings. So they come in different speed and different resolution in terms of DPI, how many dots per inch, to make up the image. Now the one that I have showcasing on the stand, they are the final few that I actually quite happy with, and those are the ones that hopefully you guys can achieve as well with the machine. Now if you have the same NEJE MAX 4 machine using my setting, I am pretty sure that you will get the same result, providing you get the focusing right. Remember I say there's so many variables which will mess up your engraving. So remember I was talking about all the variables that can mess up your engraving. So you got your focusing, which is the distance between the laser and the material that you're engraving. So there is the speed, there's power, and there is the interval between each line, so that will be the resolution as well. That is just to name a few. Obviously now you got the mechanical side of it. For example, there's also mechanical things that can mess up your engraving. For example, how stable is your frame? Both X and Y axis, they need to move. So, are they stable? Are they wobble? I absolutely hate those eccentric wheels that they use. But unfortunately that is just part of like cheap laser engravers. So at least these NEJE MAX 4 have a linear rail on the x-axis, which you need to move the most, and this is one of the reasons why I picked this machine rather than the company with my own money. So choose the right image and you get the best result. For example, let me show you one of the worst things that you can choose for a diode laser is this kind of image. Let me see if I can focus it. Now don't get me wrong, I do think this looks really nice already, but because it got so much shading on the picture, that the laser is really hard to get right. For example, this one here, I'm not sure if you can see the difference. So there is not a lot of shade. I mean, they have solid color. The laser can do different color, but it's just not very good at, like, you know, doing the color changes. For example, this one have like a black leather outfit, and the black is quite consistent throughout. And you can see that the engraving looks a lot clearer, a lot less of the blurry. For example, at the back here, you've got different type of shadow on the window, and that becomes slightly blurry. But when it comes to, like, you know, even the hair, as long as there's high definition between the contrast, and this is where the engraving will turn out really nice. Now, in terms of the setting that I settled with the NEJE MAX 4 machine will be the 4000 millimeters per minute at 423 dot per inch resolution. I find this one give me the best result, and at 4% power. So out of a 20 watt laser, I only need 4% to burn off the coating. Okay, so let's talk about my setup here. So I got the NEJE MAX 4 machine here, one of the best budget, affordable diode laser, which I think, my opinion, because I managed to get this for less than £500 delivered. And then I pay for some extra stuff. So I could have get a bigger extension, but I go for this size because I think this is actually the actual cut size. And I think this is brilliant. I already put out a video about, you know, how affordable this machine is, so I won't repeat myself. But a couple of things that I spend money on. So overall, my setup for the NEJE MAX 4 is about £750 or $750. What I got is the machine itself, the relay, which is one of the best thing ever. The relay controls the air through to the laser head. So unless I start light burn on the project, the relay will be closed, so there is no air wasted. Or else my compressor will be always on, just like a fish pump, which is just like the fish pond pump, which will be always on, which is sometimes can be quite annoying. I need this to be as quiet as possible. And I use some material to build the box. I like the box because I can close it, and it's negative pressure, so I can't smell anything here. It all gets ducted out through the exit there. I got an inline fan. I get inline fan over there. And yeah, this thing is fantastic. £750 all in for the enclosures and the laser, the relay, the compressor. So yeah, so the compressor is 24 liters, and they are actually seated in the next room. I managed to drill a hole through the wall and just feed the airline through here, and then the airline connected to the relay. This is the best system ever. You will never hear the compressor in this room. You might hear a very low humming noise if everything is switched off, but my computer fan at the moment is louder than my compressor, which is in the other room. Some people were talking about having a final kill switch and stuff like that. Well, I do have one, which is my extension here. So my laser is plugged into this, and then when I turn it off by the power here, it will cut power to everything. Hopefully I never need to use that. I'm quite proud of my handiwork because the Laser Packer 4 is in the enclosure, the NEJE MAX 4 is an enclosure. I actually hand built both of the enclosure. And then you can see the workbench here. Two of these, actually 3 benches now I have, like, you know, over there. So over there is where my filming area is, and that's one of the workbench I built first. And then I built that one, and then finally I built this one. So this is all kind of hand built with recycled material. But this is my setup. Yours might be different, but hopefully it's a safe environment that you can enjoy laser engraving. So there is a black piece of jig here that I made. Basically this is just cheap MDF material that you can buy. So I got this from Amazon, and these are, I think, is 2 or 3 mil thick MDF. I kind of engrave out an area which is kind of just slightly bigger than your aluminium card. So all you need to do is just dock it along the edge. As long as it sits inside the recess, then you know you are good. Now I can choose any of these 9 square. So just to make it easy for you guys, I will share the Lightburn file for making the jig as well as the template for fitting the pictures onto the jig so that you can engrave perfect every time. I hate to see laser engraving aluminium cards with black edges on one side or part of it missed out. This is just my OCD kicks in when I see those kind of things. Now I have a spoil board here on top of my enclosure. The spoil board is actually screwed down so it doesn't move. If I need to move the spoil board, it always goes back to the same place. Same as this jig. Now I use carpenter double-sided tape and tape it down. So if I want to remove it, I can, but I marked it where it's supposed to go. So every time I take out the jig, I put it back at the same place. And by using the same Lightburn framing file, you can always go back to the same spot. The engraving area is slightly bigger than the recess, so you do have like half a millimeter of leeway in terms of like the card. Sometimes, for example, your card doesn't sit straight, or if your jig is just tiny bit out, then you can always adjust the board, or at least it will kind of engrave over the area, not smaller. So the first one you need is the MDF 9 card engrave layer. So there's 9 square which is on the screen right here. Now they are all about 1 mil or half a mil bigger than the actual business card that I use. So the most common one is about 85 to 55 mil. So you will see that they are sized as 86.5 and then height is 54.3 or something like that. You can always like adjust it yourself, but at the moment this is locked down, so I can't change it. Engraving power depends on how deep you want to do the engraving onto the piece of wood, so you do have to test your material first, because different MDF or different material have different burn rate. The idea is that the laser move forward and backwards at the 9 square and take away the material until you can sink your card into. How much you want to sink it into is entirely up to you. Now, if your card is bigger or smaller, obviously you need to adjust the size. You need to unlock the box first from Lightburn. First of all, you select the box, you right click, and then you can do lock or unlock of that. So this is my first file. And once you have the cutout or the recess, then you can open my second file, which is the MDF 9 card jig. Mask layer re-free. Sorry about the naming, I should change it to something simpler. But anyway, so now I have 9 square on the board again, but this time they're all locked, so you can't really move them unless you want to. So the size of them is 88.5 by 55.5. So this is slightly bigger than the actual recess. The reason is that you want the picture to overspill by just a little bit. You don't want to have any chance of leaving a black gap. So my tip for this part of the video is that make sure that your jig always sits at the same place or in reference to your frame. In that case, then the laser engraving will be perfect. If your frames move or if your jig moves, then you always have to line them up again, which is going to be a headache for engraving. So once you got your jig done, you got the frame layer up, all you need to do now is import your photo. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you need to choose a photo which is easy for the machine to engrave. For example, any photo which has like a sharp contrast between color, then those will turn out really good or really well. The one which doesn't turn out really well is those very like blurry kind of effect photo. And then something like this might not turn out well unless you actually edit them. For example, a lot of different shading here, a lot of light hitting it, so there's quite a lot of different shading here. So this one might be quite difficult to engrave. Doesn't mean you can't do it, it's just that it makes it difficult. So you want to work in favor of what your machine can do. So let's say I want to engrave this picture here. In terms of requirements, because the business card is quite small, so even if you download a low resolution picture, by the time you shrink it down, it should be okay. You still have a lot of detail to play with. And then what you need to do is shrink it down to size. Now you can see that this is a very long photo, and your card does not have the same aspect ratio. So you can't just shrink it to fit your card. So what you need to do is imagine, even if I reduce the size of this card, you can see that it will not go to engrave the whole thing. So you're going to have a little bit of things left here. So what I usually do is I will roughly change them to the size of the card. So I will change the width to, let's say, 59. So just type 59 onto the box here. Just make sure the lock is on. And then that will shrink it down to a more comfortable size for the jig. Now this is the best time to actually do some processing on the photo. Like I say, this photo is already very good for engraving, but one of the tricks that I learned to make sure that the engraving turn out even better is give it some definition. So you can go to adjust image, and here on the right hand side you got enhance radius and enhance amount. So it's up to you, you can play around with it. I actually made a preset aluminum cards setup. So when I press on that, it automatically changes enhance radius to 3 and then enhance amount to 200. So what it does is quite clever. So the machine will actually help you to move some of the black dots to the edges of what it thinks is a line. So now I've got the image ready, but you need to put them into one of these 9 boxes. Now it doesn't matter which one you put it onto, but what you need to do is you need to change the orientation of this photo first, because this is kind of in a portrait mode, and I find that the NEJE, but what I find is the NEJE MAX 4 doesn't like to engrave this direction. So I turn it sideways so it engraves like that direction. But you can play around with it. You might want to turn the jig like, you know, however you want, but this is how I do mine. So you go to rotate and type in 90. It will turn the photo sideways. Let's say I want to engrave in the middle of the jig. So you move them to slightly to the middle. So now what you need to do is you need to select both the picture and the frame that you want. So I'll click on the frame, and then I will do shift and click on the photo. Now I selected both the frame and the photo. I'll right click and then apply mask to image. So now what Lightburn will do is that when you try to move the picture, anything which is outside of the T1 frame will get chopped out. So this is exactly what it will look like when you engrave on the aluminum card. So if you want more of the head, you move it slightly downwards. But if you move it too much, then you have a black band of unengraved aluminum card. So you have to make sure that all 4 sides is within the orange line, which is easy enough to do. So I don't want to chop off any of her hair, so this is the maximum that I will go. So now we put a black card in the middle of the jig. Like I say, so what you do is push it against the edge, lay it down, and make sure that it sits flush inside the recess area. This is the time that you want to turn off your air assist, or at least turn it to the minimum, because you don't want the air to blow the card away. And then you need to choose your power. So on the cut section, you want to choose image, and you want to choose the speed to 4000 and the power to 4%. And the DPI is 423, and you want negative image. It's very important to choose negative image, or else it burns away all the color. You actually want to do the reverse. You want to burn the area which you want it to be lighter in color. Because I'm using the NEJE MAX 4, and I know the jig is about 2 or 3 mil. So I set the laser height to 50 mil to my board. So I need to minus the focusing area plus the depth of the jig. Yeah, so my Z offset is 22. What it means is the machine head will move down by 22 mil before it starts engraving. Now this is not machine specific, but overall engraving of aluminum card, the focusing distance is ultra important. On the NEJE MAX 4 laser, even by out of 2 millimeter, the focusing will be out until you can't really engrave properly. So let me show you an interesting way that we can focus our laser. Everyone knows about turning the knob and moving the laser up and down to find the right laser length. But with the NEJE MAX 4, we can actually do it via Lightburn. So let's say we home the laser module, and then we use the move function on light burn, and you can tell it how far do you want to move. So beginning I choose like 20 millimeters. So you can actually use the directional button over there to move the laser to wherever you want it to move. So I want the laser to go on top of this card here so that I can test my focusing. Okay, once you're above the card, I will change the distance to, let's say, 5 mil. And then now I can move the laser head up and down because I have a motorized Z axis. By default, you won't find the fire laser button over there, so you do have to go to machine setting, I think. So go to edit, go to device setting, and then go to enable laser fire button and also laser on when framing. Once you press OK, you will find the laser fire button over here. And I choose like, let's say 0.5% is usually what I use to test the laser or use it for framing. But what I want to do now is I want to fire the laser. So now you can see a blue dot right here. Because it's 0.5%, so it's not really bright, and it's not burning the card because the focusing is so out that you won't be able to burn the card. So what I'll do is I will move the laser up and down until the light changes. Oh, not left and right, actually up and down I mean. So now the light's gone a bit brighter because it actually gone through the black coating. So what you want to do is you want to keep moving the laser until it gets to a very bright spot every time you move the machine left and right. So every time I move left, it gets dimmer and brighter straight away. So you know that this is kind of like engraving the material even though it's only at 0.5%. You can move it down 1 mil and then you can move left and right again. And you can see that now the color changes, but a lot slower than... But you can see that now it's burning through the layer, but it's a bit slower. So I know that I have gone down too far. So let me go back up 1 mil. Every time I press is 1 mil. So I put left again. Yeah, so this is a lot quicker. It's almost like a flash. Now if I move up again 1 more, and I do the same thing again. So it's slow again. So, obviously this is too high. So if I move it back down again, this is perfect. So this is exactly on point in terms of focusing. Now, if you don't have Z motorized, and you don't want to mess around with light burn movement like left, right, center and stuff like that, what you can do is you can also do this by hand. Now, because I'm using a NEJE MAX 4 with the motorized X Z axis, what you can do is go to get position, press it, and will tell you that the Z is at -24. So that means that the head have to travel down by 24 mil to get to the right distance. And then I can use this for setting up my burn here. If I put down 24, so that means that the laser will move down by the same amounts that I moved manually, and it will focus perfect. And I will close the enclosure because as much as I like to see the engraving, I don't want to hear it and I don't want to smell the plastic engraving smell. What you will find is the first 4 or 5 stroke, it will be kind of engraving the MDF instead of the card, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And because we're only running the laser at 4%, it will not destroy the MDF. It's just not strong enough to destroy the MDF. I think over a period of time, because I spray painted black, you don't have to, but because I spray painted black, it will just kind of fade the color along the edge of the card, but it will not burn the wood or anything like that, which is pretty handy. So engraving with this power and speed, a card like this will take 23 minutes. It does take a bit of a long time, but the result should be good. You can make it faster by lowering the resolution, but okay, so the engraving is done, and you can see that, you know, because we are engraving about 0.5 mil outside of the recess area, and you will see that the engraving on the card should be perfectly covered. And here we are, a laser engraved aluminum card. Now you can see there's no black edge left anywhere on the card. It kind of turns out perfect. And one of the things about laser engraving is that they are quite consistent. So, you know, if you choose the right setting, the right focus, it will turn out kind of perfect every time. So hopefully by following my method, you get some good results from your engraving, and, you know, make my setting as your starting point, take it to the next level. And let's say if you want to do multiple cards at the same time, basically just repeat the process, choose the photo that you want to engrave, change the orientation, adjust the size to the bigger size that you think that you will need. So 89 mil long, and then try to fit it into the frame. Choose both the frame and the photo by Shift and Photo, right click, apply mask to image, move it so that visible part is where you want to engrave, and that's it. You can flatten image to mask, or you can just leave it hanging, it doesn't matter. It will only engrave the area which is going to be engraved. And when you've done that, it will only engrave the area where there is image. It won't engrave anywhere else. So that's the end of the video. Hope you find my information useful, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to my channel. I wish you luck with your laser journey, turning black aluminum card to your pictures of your desire. See you next time with more interesting gadget. Bye bye.